Well, hi again. In this is a 10th part of the uh, lecture uh, of the discrimination in labor market, which is part of the lecture series of the gender economics course. This lecture series is prepared for the Middlesex University Northern Cyprus campus. And in this part, basically, we will look to the last article, which is basically discussing, which is on the potential discrimination faced by the gender orientation, basically. That means being either gay or bisexual or lesbian. Well, they don't look to the possibility of being transgender, but just having a non-heterosexual gender identity. Well, first we might ask, do we have this kind of discrimination? Well, in the United States, there are several type of studies done to show actually there are this type of discrimination is existing actually, and there are different examples of it, but one interesting example is actually, the most interesting example is actually directly asking to the employers. It was actually, at least at the time of this study, it was legal to not employ people based on discriminate people based on their gender orientation, and in some states that actually passed laws to make it illegal to discriminate according to because of the gender orientation. But as far as I know, it's not allowed at federal level. Although I'm not 100% sure, that should also be tested. But at least certain groups say it actually there should be a federal level protection for the people with different gender orientations, and that protection did not exist effectively. But it could be tested. The recent laws on the gender orientation might be tested, might be looked upon. But at least in 1989, you can see that from the employers that were asked in Alaska, basically, of course, that's not all United States. 18% said they will fire homosexuals. 27% they won't hire them at the first place if they know it, and 26% they will not promote them. Not the majority, but still an interesting thing that some people directly say it. And we might still say some people might look more generous. Not not that much discriminatory, but in reality, of course, those numbers might be maybe larger also, because some people might say, I won't fire them, but they might still fire, especially well, if they think it's being homosexual is not normal, or lesbian is not normal, but at first they think, well, still I won't care. But the idea that the people with different gender orientation is not normal might kick in, basically, in an unexpected way, if they think that way, basically, when they realize one of their employers is basically has a non-heterosexual gender orientation. Anyway, so in this sense, the non-heterosexual people might face a discrimination if they come out and show they are not heterosexual. But even if they don't come out, they might still feel the effect of the discrimination. That's because they might hide their identity, but basically the fact that there is a hostile environment to the non-heterosexual people might make them to become socially isolated in the workplace, both because maybe they are trying to hide their identity and they feel uncomfortable, they don't want to be their identity to be discovered, but also they feel the hostility. I mean, they think their identity is not welcome by them, by the people in the workplace, and they might not want to socially integrate with them. And also that hostility might create stress and also lower their productivity also. Of course, here the hostility affects their productivity, and that feedbacks to the wages, assuming that their identity is not discovered. So in order to, and this research is actually looking, it doesn't differentiate between the people who are whose gender orientation is discovered and not discovered. Rather, they take, because there are not many studies where actually gender orientation data and the workplace status data is gathered, so their option to gather data was limited. So they take basically the overall census surveys, and in those surveys, basically, there is one question which says, "Did you ever had different, same-sex gender partner or different sex gender partners? How many?" And then they thought some of the people might have just experimented with having a sexual relation with the same gender. So basically, they looked whether number of partners that are if the person has at least same number of sexual partners, or more same-sex sexual partner, or more same-sex sexual partner, they are considered as gay or bisexual. Actually, here the measurement might be a little bit strange, because bisexual people, basically, if you know the definition, they have same, they might be attracted to the both genders, I mean man and woman at the same time. So a bisexual woman might have more female sex partners than the male sex partners, but still be bisexual. But basically, here, in order to be lesbian, gay, or bisexual, you should have at least same number of sexual partners, or more same-sex sexual partners, basically, or same number of same-sex sexual partners. Of course, it is, and you can also see from the same study the income level of the individuals, and there was a concern that maybe some people might not report that they are gay, bisexual, or lesbian. But the main point here is, if we see any effect for the people who actually declare their, I mean, if you see a discrimination, of the people who are declaring they are gay, bisexual, or lesbian, probably the people who hide themselves are have much more higher effect. They face a bit more hostility and more fear, so that they even hide, even in the census, I mean in the study, their sexual orientation. So basically, I mean, the people who come forward, the effect they face might show also, we might rely on its representation on overall level of discrimination faced by bisexual, lesbian, and gay people, because probably the people who hide themselves face a even bigger discrimination, probably, or at least afraid of even bigger discrimination. Basically, I mean, they feel that they are likely to be discriminated in the environment they are living in. So I want to just go to the basically the results. You can see the base numbers here, but I want to go to the regression. And as you see, This is the actual effect, and here you have control variables. Here you have experience and the LGBTQ. Well, no effect, no significant effect. And here you have woman and man as separate, and you have different variables. I mean, in the second, third, and fifth column, we have checked for actually different type of occupations. Interestingly, you don't have any significant effect in woman. You have a significant effect in man, negative effect, and significant effect in case of man. So gay and bisexual men are earning less, but lesbian and bisexual women don't earn less than the heterosexual counterparts. So this is the main thing. But what does it say to us? Well, it might be very well that it might be the case that man might feel more discriminated than the woman. And that might be the case basically because they are living in a male culture, male dominant culture, where male sexuality is also praised. And I mean, not belonging to that, not feeling the same feelings, not being a part of that culture, might be much harmful, much more harmful for the man, compared with the woman, lesbian women, who are not at the part of that, who won't be part of that culture, even if they were heterosexual, basically. But also, although in case of women, we should also be careful. It might also be possible that the lesbian woman, I mean, because they don't marry with men usually, they might not be likely to have kids and children, and as a result, they might not they might not get all the penalties they would experience if they had a marriage a typical heterosexual woman would have. And that might be actually an advantage that might counterbalancing any type of discrimination that is felt because of their sexual orientation, basically. So that might be one thing that might basically look to results like this, even though lesbian women feel discrimination. But in case of men, you see discrimination is clear. And one interesting thing is when you add occupation factors in, you see even a higher discrimination, which might mean, well, gay men are gay men actually are not getting lower wage because they are in occupations which pay less. They are in the occupations which are paying high wages, actually, maybe even more than the heterosexual men. Maybe, I mean, that was one thing. Because of the social isolation, they might be working even harder to get a high paying job. But even when they are in the high paying jobs, working in the high paying jobs, they are actually getting a wage differential. They are not able to earn as much as the heterosexual counterparts. So in some ways, actually, if getting to a higher paying occupation is a result of an investment, they are getting they don't get as much returns as their heterosexual counterparts to their investments, basically. Anyway, this is the research on the effect of the sexual orientation. It is simple, but then again, the data available was not that much well, that broad. But it tells us something on this discrimination. Anyway, well, this week's discussion is on the glass ceiling. We have already talked on that. The main question is how important is this glass ceiling problem? And there are resources. I'm waiting your comments, responses to this question. And this is the end of this lecture. See you. I hope to see you in the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. And as always, stay healthy.